Greetings, folks. This is DC Investing. I've reached financial independence, and I'm talking about topics that might help others on their path to financial independence. And today I had kind of a fun subject. I wanted to talk about a profit that I made in the precious metals market this year. And the profit is over $30,000, which is a nice place to be in on this case. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the investments that I made in precious metals, and also like the background and the history for how I was able to accomplish this, because I think that would be useful for a new upcoming investor to kind of see the process for how you might make a gain like this. And so the three funds that I'm going to talk about that I invested in is PSLV. That is a fund that buys physical silver and holds it. Another one is SLVR. That one is a cross between miners um, and holding physical metal. And then SPPP, and that is a fund that holds platinum and palladium. All of those, I believe, are Sprott funds. That's where I made the gains this year. But I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not taken the time to become educated in the investment world. So 5 years ago, I would not have been able to have made this gain, and um, I didn't. Even though I tried to buy some silver at the time, 5 years ago, the only thing I knew about how to invest in the precious metal market was to go to the local coin shop and try to purchase physical metal, which I did 5 years ago. It was COVID, and I was kind of watching the markets and saw that there was a big drop, or heard that was a big drop in the price of silver. And so I went into the local coin shop on the perfect timed day. It was the the pinnacle of the drop. It was a Friday, and I tried to buy some silver. I think I had $2,000 or $3,000 or something, maybe 5,000. I don't know. I was really worried about the banking system at the time, which is kind of why I was trying to get some precious metal. Um, but I couldn't buy it at the price that the market said the spot price was, and so um, the premiums that they were charging above the spot price were really large, and they just wouldn't sell it to me. And so I think I ended up purchasing a gold coin or something at the time. I went away more frustrated and kind of held on to some of the cash that I had at that time. But I thought, over the next little bit, I could see that the price of silver was recovering, and I was like, man, why couldn't I get that uh, that price on that day? And so I started to become educated and just learn about the precious metals market in the background. And the way that I did that primarily was by listening to YouTube channels, various finance guys, and they have quite a few of them. There's a lot of really fun commentary in the precious metals market. And if you find one channel, typically another channel will pop up that has something similar. And some of them are much more doomsday-ish than others. You kind of have to take a precious metal channel with a grain of salt, because sometimes they're trying to sell you precious metal, and you got to just be aware of that. And I think there's a lot of older folks that kind of think the economy of the world's going to fall apart at any time. And what's interesting is when I was younger, I found a book that was at my grandmother's house about uh, economic things, and in it was like, America is going to lose the reserve currency status. Gold and silver are going to save you. Get your food storage in. Prepare for the society to fall apart. And it was interesting because I looked at the date that this book was written, and it was kind of like the end of the 1970s or early 1980s. I'm like, whoa, that was 30 years ago at the time that I read it. It's been a lot longer now, but everything they said sounded just like today. The value of the dollar has lost so much since the Federal Reserve was put in. We're going to lose the petrodollar status, the reserve currency. Everything's going to fall apart, and those are still the same themes that are going on today. You hear the exact same things. So like, well, the economy didn't crash, or the system didn't crash over that decade time, and it hasn't crashed yet. I guess it could at any time, but But you have to be really cautious about um, the overall narrative to things. But that then you can still make money during these times. So, like I said, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and they talked about various funds you can use to buy precious metal. And I was kind of looking at SLV at the time because I think that was something I at least had heard about that you could use to track precious metals. And I looked, I could pull up the stock chart for that, and sure enough, on that day that I went into the coin shop, that was pretty much the bottom of the market. And then the price of silver doubled over the next, I think, month or month and a half, 2 months or something like that. And so, like, man, had I been able to purchase it, that was the perfect time. But I realized if I had just purchased SLV, then the value of I would have harvested the value of silver. Um, and so from there, I kind of learned about GLD, and both of those are created by J.P. Morgan Chase. And as I've learned over the past time, a lot of people don't trust those funds very much because they don't trust J.P. Morgan. JP has been fined for meddling in the money market area, and there's some commentary on their funds that say in a case of a metals crash, um, that those two funds may not actually own the metal that they say they will. So a lot of the folks like the Sprott funds better. There's no guarantees in any fund that they'll have the metal, but that's why PSLV is the silver fund and PHYS is the gold fund, and I've used both of those from Sprott, and I would definitely choose those above SLV or PSLV. But what I noticed is, if you're just trying to get the dollar cost of a precious metals, those two, any of those funds will kind of give that to you as long as the market is functioning. And so I've kind of learned about these things over time just by listening to a lot of commentary on them. And I dabbled in the precious metal market. I bought some miners, and I bought some ETFs that do the miners. There's GDX, GDXJ, SIL, SILJ, and I think I made a little bit as the market kind of went up after 2020. I probably got too enthusiastic about it because then everything went back down again. It didn't make any sense to me because here we were printing a bunch of money, and yet the price of gold and silver kind of languished for a couple of years. But that, I guess, it does that from time to time. And so, but I'm just learning, just watching, biding my time. Sometimes things go up and I sell it, and I was down in a retirement account on some of the metals miners that I had until this year when they all recovered, and then I was able to get back out of some of those things. But on to how I made the gain in these metals. I'd been watching the price of gold last year. It was percolating up, doing really well, and they say that the price of silver kind of trails the price of gold, and silver really didn't go up a ton. But I'm kind of just watching it. And then when Trump came out and did the tariff announcement in early April, I just noticed that there was a big drop in the price of silver. So I've noticed that when things get kind of wild, the metals can move quite a bit. And so I bought a bunch kind of right after that tariff time frame. I think I bought 15,000 or something, and just kind of kept nibbling at it. I think within a week I bought about that much, and then kind of nibbled at a few more shares. For platinum, which was the SPPP, I kind of looked up my past history, and I was slowly kind of dollar cost averaging into that. I'd buy $100 or $200 or something over time, and platinum just really wasn't going anywhere, which is probably the lesson to learn, that you need to get into something before a move gets made. It had been much higher at one time. I think it was up near the $3,000 mark or 2,000, and it was kind of languishing down about $1,000 per ounce, and just kind of going nowhere. And so I was dollar cost averaging into it, and it's kind of hard because sometimes the price goes down and you just have to kind of hold your nose and purchase. And may go up a little bit and then may go back down, but I just believe that there was value into that. So overall, I think I wrote down these amounts that I had purchased, and in the PSLV, I had put in $17,000. In SLVR, I put in $5,200, and into the SPPP, dollar cost averaging, I got in $29,000. And so, the times that I was purchasing into these were sort of moments of weakness. And that's kind of like the lesson is you don't want to be purchasing when everything is at their peak. You kind of have to realize there's some value behind things and make your purchases at that point. And so today, my platinum is up to $45,000. So it went from 30,000 up to 45. That's about a 60% gain. The SLVR, at that more than doubled. It's worth $10,000. And the PSLV, again, up 60%. So it's $27,000 now. So I was in about 50 grand or something, and I've made 30. Actually, it's like 32 grand. And that's kind of the process to how you make gains in these sorts of things. Is you kind of have to get in early. You've got to move against the crowd. No one was really buying these things back at that time, and there's no guarantee that things are going to go up. I just kind of figured there was some value behind these things. I wanted a little bit of precious metal to offset all of the stocks that I had, and now I have a really nice gain in these. I guess stepping back further, I had to earn that $50,000 before I could invest it. So that's another piece that's part of the process. Is you've got to be able to have money in order to make money. So I put that money in. It's actually in a Roth 401k account. And over the past 2 years, I've been doing a strategy where I'm putting in after-tax dollars into my 401k system, and then it converts to Roth. And so I've gotten, including these gains that I've almost got $200,000 in this Roth 401k that I put in over the past 2.5 years or something, because I'm just saving a ton of my paycheck because I live off of dividends nowadays. So that I had to be able to have the income to put into the account first, and then I needed something to invest it in. I have less than half of my account invested in precious metals in this case. I wish I'd done more, but you never know what's going to happen. And so you have to work to earn some funds to get it ready to invest. You need to be watching and listening in the markets, the commentary, to kind of make a move to try to, within reason, say, I think there's value in this area of the market. I'm going to buy a few things, and then, slowly, for me, it was kind of slowly get in. Platinum, I started buying in 2024, just sort of slowly dollar cost into it. I did buy some more at the tariff tantrum, but then it's just taken off over this last year. So I have a nice gain in it now. And that's sort of the process. I learned a lot by watching different channels on YouTube. I'm not all in on precious metals by any means, but it's kind of a small, maybe 5% of my overall investment thing, between miners that I own in my 401k. I have a little bit of physical precious metal, dabbled in this SL or PSLV and SPPP, but a $30,000 gain is really nice. And as things have gone up, I've actually sold off some of the silver before, or some of these funds. I've been taking some gains. Will it continue to go up? Who knows? I'm not sure. But that's sort of the process that some of you guys may be able to use over your life. Is you first have to work to earn the dollars, get them in an investment account, watch for an opportunity, and then put your capital to work at a time when you think it's the best opportunity. So there's sort of the process. I'd be curious to know, though, if any of you also buy precious metals, and most interested to know, are any of you under 30 years old? Because it seems to me like a lot of the precious metal folks are the older generation. 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. They really seem to deal much more in the precious metals than the younger generation. Like my son has no interest in anything precious metals. I don't even know if he'd recognize it. So do any of you watching this channel, or any of you under 30, and are you investing in any way in the precious metal market? Really curious to hear your information. So like, subscribe, and well, the reason why I ask about the younger generation is because I think long term, in order for the precious metals to really take off, I think the new generations need to also get on board. I think they're much more interested in the crypto markets than they are the physical metals. So that's kind of why I'm curious. Like, subscribe. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you. Bye.